when, I don't know, I just felt that felt right to me. And I know it felt right in that moment. And we had some really powerful moments in that space. Now, again, the coaching bodies would shoot me down for that and say, you can't do that. And of course, I wouldn't suggest that you do that, because sometimes it just happens, right? It just happens for me. Have you ever considered whether the world's best coaches coach predominantly in person or online? And have you also reflected on your own coach business, whether in-person coaching or online coaching is the most beneficial in terms of your business, in terms of income for you? That is the topic we're going to explore today. Before we get into it, my name is Andy Ramage. I'm your coach, your trainer, your guide. I'm the founder of the Coach Business .school, where we train successful coaches. That's all we do. We have a singular focus: create successful coaches. How do we do that? Through our accreditation programs, our diploma courses that run over 6 months, and we will limit that to just 200 maximum students per year. I'm involved in the delivery of every single course. You get to train with the expert, not the trainer's trainer. And also, if you're already an accredited coach, we have our Coach MBA, which I run, Marketing and Business for Accredited Coaches. It will help you build the coaching business of your dreams, so you can do the thing that you love with total freedom from anywhere in the world and contribute and add value and generate the income you deserve that allows you to continue to add value to people's lives. And I want to be a part of that with you. So do check out coachbusiness.school to find out more. All right. So the question today: are the best coaches coaching in person or online? Now, on a personal note, I do both. But something interesting has been happening to me over the last year or so. More and more of my coaching's been going to in-person coaching. And I'm going to dive a bit deeper into this and why I think that's potentially really skillful in a moment. But it's gifted me this whole new level of connection. Bear in mind, I've been at this for well over a decade, and I've been running coaching businesses, organizations, initiatives, predominantly online for over a decade. Online has been wonderful for me. It's allowed me to live this incredible life and meet so many wonderful people from all over the globe. In all of our training courses, we literally have people from all over the globe, from Australia to the US to all over Europe. I love the online space. It's been a game changer in the world of coaching, in the world of connection. However, I am guilty, I think, as many others have been, of predominantly moving everything to online because of its ease of use. And something's been rumbling along for the last year or so. More and more of my top-end coaching, because I do a lot of elite level coaching, has moved to in-person. And I'm getting this new joy from it in a way that maybe I wasn't experiencing as much of online. Then I started to run my podcasts from home and inviting people to join me in my home. And we'd sit down and have these really rich conversations. And I was gaining this new sense of joy and connection in a way that I hadn't experienced in many, many years. And then, whilst this was all building momentum in my mind, we held our first ever retreat. And I've said this to our coaches, I'm at the vanguard trying all these different things, from creating apps, I have a drinks brand, a documentary. I'm involved in all these different businesses because it's really important for me to be really highly skilled in the world of business so I can teach our coaches how to be really successful in business. I'd never run a retreat. So I thought, I've got to run a retreat. What does that feel like, look like? How do I make that successful so I can learn all those skills and tools and techniques to help our coaches if they want to run retreats? I run this retreat. And it was possibly one of the greatest experiences of my life to date. And that's not an over-exaggeration. It was just joyous. Joyous on a level that I hadn't experienced in so many years. That human connection. Many of whom that were on that retreat, it wasn't exclusive to coaches, but they were coaches. It was just such a wonderful gathering of a group of people that wanted to go deep on important topics. And I guided the retreat for the 2 or 3 days that we were together. And it was moving in many ways, and something that I will repeat and do more of. And there's a reason for that. I love the community and the connection of it, that shared human experience of being in the same room. And it really reminded me of the power of in-person. And I'm going to own it. I think I've been a bit guilty of of moving away from that because of the ease of online, which is so easy online versus in person very often. But what I also realized is I think I've been denying myself some of my favorite parts of coaching, the bit that truly lights me up. And my wife Tara will testify to this. The amount of times I will phone Tara after I've just met someone. I predominantly do my in-person coaching in London, and I'm just joyous at this lived experience of spending time with another human being and helping them achieve their goals, overcome obstacles. It just lights me up. And often the phone rings and it's me on the phone to Tara, and she always comments that it's after those type of interactions I clearly get the most joy. And I think still I brushed it under the carpet, and it wasn't until just recently on the retreat I realized what was going on. I want to do a lot more in-person coaching. So let's unpick that together. What are the top level coaches doing? I think they're doing a mixture of both. As mentioned, I do both. But when I coach at the elite level, so starting points are around, let's just say £6,000 and more for a package of coaching, very often that comes with the potential to do so in person. And the more I'm in that space, the more I'm leaning in, as those prices increase as well, to the fact that I might even, as a coach, specialize in in-person coaching. In a world that's driven now very soon by AI, I think there'll be more and more demand, maybe at a higher level in terms of income, for the in-person style coaching. So whilst most coaches have reverted to online, and understandably so, the reason that I wanted to record this podcast, because maybe there's an outside the box bit of thinking here where actually you might be able to niche into in-person coaching. And maybe that's something you just hadn't considered because of the ease of use of online. And maybe again, with that, there is a price tag because it's even more rewarding and valuable, or it might help you get those outcomes. We spoke about this a lot in the last episode of the podcast for your clients in a way that maybe online can't. And I think that's really important to reflect upon that. And there's a part of me going forward that might specialize in exactly that, i.e. I will not do any online coaching. In fact, I will specialize in in-person coaching, predominantly around London, but then maybe build a network of coaches that can work in person in different locations. Again, and stepping into the higher end of coaching, that makes that much more feasible because then you can offset some of the travel costs and time costs in the actual investment in coaching itself. So it might not be as feasible or possible in those early stages of coaching, but equally, maybe it's something to aspire to or even to niche into that maybe opens up a whole new world of opportunity you hadn't really considered before. So this is how I also use in-person coaching. I have a retainer system that I've pioneered, and I share this with our MBA students. So what that does is it allows me to approach wonderful organizations and forward-thinking businesses and build a relationship with them through some tools and techniques that our MBA guys have. And then to such a point that I can then work with them on a retained basis as an in-person coach and be present in person in the office, for example, because that ticks so many boxes. We're just going to talk about some of the benefits of in-person now. In the corporate space, let's begin there, because then you are visibly seen in the office, so people get to know who you are, build that know, like, and trust. People inquire or are inquisitive as to why a certain employee, staff member is sitting in a glass meeting room, for example, that can be seen by the people outside working with this person. Who is that person? Intrigue builds the opportunity for the people that are being coached to tell people about that lived experience, which builds more interest in coaching. It's a great win for the organization because then the organization can showcase that they're looking after their staff in a completely different level. They totally believe in them and their performance. They're bringing in high performance coaches to nurture their talent, to allow them to perform at elite level. Everyone wins. What are some of the benefits of that to the organization? Increased retention, massive win. Longevity, that is worth a fortune. I'm going to do a specific podcast on that because it's the biggest win in coaching in the business world. If you can get your elite performers to stay for another 5 years because they're being looked after correctly, in many businesses that is worth millions and millions of pounds, if not more in some instances. Therefore, to offset that against an investment in a coach is a rounding error, effectively. So you're present, you're being seen. this improves your ability to reach new people within organizations. I've been in many organizations where there's been some resistance from certain people. Coaching's not for me, not my thing, quite resistant from the start, and that's totally fine. So I'll work with the people that want to come and lean into coaching. And of course, by being present and being seen, you're still bumping into those people that are a bit more resistant, which just starts to loosen a bit of that resistance. And then they start to talk to other people that have then been coached with you. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened. Some of the most resistant people at the start end up becoming the biggest advocates. And when they turn into advocates, that's the game changer, right? Because everyone knew they were resistant and they're the resistant type. And then all of a sudden they actually start working with a coach, get great results. Then they start telling people, and then that's it. That opens the floodgates. Everyone's in. And I've had this lived first-hand experience of exactly that many, many times. And that's when the game changes about in-person coaching in the corporate space. Now, on an individual level, there are pros and cons. It might logistically be very difficult to be in a big city, for example. You might live somewhere really rurally or remote, or the reason you came to coaching is the very fact that you wanted to travel and coach from anywhere. By the way, it's absolutely possible. And of course it is. We're all doing that at the moment. But equally, for those that are just thinking about maybe in person or hadn't even really considered it before, maybe this will just spring a few ideas into that wonderful mind of yours. Now, logistically, it can be challenging, of course, depending on where you are. If you happen to live near a big city, it might be relatively easy. I'm 15, 20 minutes from one of the biggest and best cities in the world, that is London, and there's an abundance of opportunity there. So it makes it easy for me should I want to do in-person coaching. Now, with the right investment, I'll happily travel to that in-person coaching. So you've got that factor in as well, that maybe it is that someone really wants to work with you because the outcome you offer is incredibly valuable, that they can price in the fact that you need to jump on a plane or a train or an automobile or whatever it looks like to gain that really quality level of energy and connection that comes from in-person coaching. Now, some of the downsides are, as mentioned, logistically, it might be very difficult to do, might be much more timely, and it is a much bigger time cost. We have to appreciate that. In-person coaching comes with a much bigger time tag price to it, because it's not just turn on the Zoom, do your coaching, do your reflection on your coaching, you're done. It's the travel time, it's the train time, it's the car time, it's then the coaching time, and then the travel car time back. All of a sudden, what was a 1 hour coaching session could take half a day. So you have to factor that in. Again, that's why the pricing needs to be right, I think, when it comes to in-person coaching. So it comes with that higher price tag for those type of reasons. Now, of course, you can be super skillful around that time. That's why I get to train everywhere, because then I can write and read. So that time is not dead to me. It's great time. If you've got to drive, you can listen to a podcast. So you can be skillful with that time, but unlike an online coaching session, which is very neat and locked into an hour, 45 minutes coaching session, 15 minutes reflection, you're potentially looking at half a day or 2 hours or 3 hours for, technically a 1 hour in-person coaching session. Factor that in. Also, security is a factor for some. You are going to find yourself in a situation with another human being, potentially in a private space, a place that potentially comes with some security concerns that you need to be aware of. And they're commonsensical, I know, but still it's worth highlighting those things. And also you might be thinking, well, where do I coach? If I'm going to meet someone in person and I don't own a office somewhere, do I need to then hire a specific meeting room studio where we can get some quiet time? My personal reflection on that is no, you don't actually. What I've found is either if I'm coaching in a corporate space, they'll give me space within that organization anyway, or I just do it in coffee shops. I find quiet coffee shops. Most, in London, most places you'll find the ones where you can get a bit of space and a bit of time. I really like Italy near Liverpool Street Station. If anyone knows London well, there's a few nooks and crannies there, secret hideouts where you can get a bit of a quiet space to have those great, deep, meaningful conversations. Now, you might also raise a concern of, but if you're having a deep and meaningful and then some colleagues happen to frequent the same establishment and they sit next to you, it might make things a little bit uncomfortable, especially from a confidentiality standpoint. So you do have to factor that in and be mindful of that. So if you do pick a location, try and find one that's a bit stealthy, I would say, that is less likely for colleagues and other people to be not within earshot. Is fine, right? Because in a busy cafe and there's a lot of noise and clanging going on, there's noise that is not affecting your ability to coach, but it creates that nice background noise that people are not particularly going to be earwigging what you're saying. But still, it does raise, again, in person, if you're doing it in a coffee shop style, that slight concerns. You have to be conscious of that, as opposed to being in a meeting room, for example, where you don't have to deal with that. But do you need to go and hire a specific room? I don't. I've been doing this for a decade. I've never had to. So don't overthink that part of it. And then let's look at some of the benefits. The benefits are you get that human-to-human connection. That rapport grows in a way that, yes, you can build it wonderfully online, and I've spent over a decade doing exactly that. But there is a different energy. There is a different outcome to being in person. There's a different level of rapport. However, here comes the next potential hurdle. This is what I've experienced at time with in-person coaching. You become definitely more friendly. So you can slip quite quickly into something that feels more of a friendship than a coaching relationship. I've definitely found that with in-person. When it's online, I think it's much easier to keep it a little bit more clinical, is probably not the right word, but professional in that regard. But when you're in person, naturally, there's a bit more rapport building. There's a bit more of a warm up to the coaching session, especially if you're in a coffee space. There's a little bit more small talk that can, blossom into something where you've got shared interest. You start to know a bit more about them. Then, of course, you do your great coaching. So I'm highlighting that point in a way that you can find that actually the friendship part of it, because you're building a deeper kind of level of rapport, can actually potentially muddy the waters in terms of your coaching. So again, through lived experience, be conscious and aware of that. Try and keep it professional at all times. Keep the small talk to the simple small talk. Don't just slip into that sort of friendship kind of banter, and then before you know it, you're getting uncomfortable in your coaching sessions because now you've built what feels more like a friendship than a professional relationship. That tends to, this is the point, that tends to happen a lot less on online, because it's much more neat, it's much more professional. The small talk element really just kicks off the coaching session, whereas obviously if you're sitting in a coffee shop, it's much more likely to blossom beyond the quick couple of words you might have online. So do factor that in as well. That being said, you can build wonderful relationships in your coaching relationships. And I know this in some ways breaks some of the rules, but post-coaching relationships, I've got some brilliant friendships that have come out of coaching that are still friends today, and we'll have a friendship forever because we've been on this incredible shared journey of learning and adventure together, which I think is really, really important. So again, pros and cons. I just want to highlight these to you and for you. Online is much easier, right? In a nutshell, it's simpler, it's quicker, there's less travel time, so it's much more leaner in terms of being cost effective. Much less of your time is required, but there are those little nuances that you get from in person, as I've described, that I think make that a really powerful experience. So I wouldn't rule in person out at all. In fact, I might lean into it and just reflect that in your pricing model when it comes to in person, so that you've got priced in there the extra time, the extra travel, and experiment. You might find you get results you'd never even considered, and consider about working in a corporation and showing up and shining that message, which creates this much broader awareness around coaching within an organization, which can lead to tons of different opportunities. So for me, I'm in this, a fortunate position where I can do this. I live near a big city. So you will see me do this because I pioneer a lot of these ideas and experiment with them. You will see me moving towards exclusively in-person coaching, and that will come with an investment that matches that in-person coaching. And I believe there's going to be a real position and place for that. If you are niched, you're an in-person expert coach, as opposed to, a hybrid. I think there's an argument to say by niching into in-person, so wherever you go, whoever you work with, it's in-person coaching, comes with that price tag. I think that's going to get more and more valuable over time, because people themselves in an AI-washed world are going to start to value human to human connection in a way that maybe hasn't been as valued. I fell into that trap, as mentioned, for over a decade. So this is a really exciting time for coaching. I think it's coming back to in-person coaching. But here's the great thing. We now have these incredible platforms that are online as well as in person. Wind back the clock 10, 15 years, we only had in person, which made it really difficult because, depending on your geography, you might be stuck. Whereas now we have the ability to do both. And I hope that really excites you. I want you to reflect upon your coaching, the way you've structured your business, and maybe consider, if you haven't done already, trialing or spending more time in person coaching and see how that makes you feel. And if at the end of the day it lights you up, what a gift, what a win. And one more thing I'll say about in-person coaching. And again, the coaching bodies would shoot me right now for saying this, but I'm all about being great at what you do. And that's why I train our coaches in the real art of coaching that makes them successful. And we have accreditations, of course we do. We have all the accreditations lined up. But most people make the mistake of thinking it's all about the accreditations. It's not at all. What really matters most is who you get in a room with and train with, that they've got expertise and great experience. Because there's been many moments in my coaching, not always, but sometimes it happens, when I've hugged one of my clients. Always been male clients, but we've just embraced, because it just felt right when they were dealing with something really challenging. And it might not have been in the middle of a coaching session. This has usually been prior or after, when, I don't know, I just felt that felt right to me. And I know it felt right in that moment. And we had some really powerful moments in that space. Now, again, the coaching bodies would shoot me down for that and say, you can't do that. And of course, I wouldn't suggest that you do that, because sometimes it just happens, right? It just happens for me occasionally. When we finished our retreat, it was like, do you know what? Let's get in for a hug. And there was this spontaneous moment of joy and laughter and beautiful connection. And sometimes that happens in coaching. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Why would we ever weed that out of coaching? We're not robots. Of course, you can never do that online. Yet these things can blossom in a way that creates an even more powerful experience in person. So with that in mind, please do reflect, in person or offline. Let me know your feedback. Drop a note, team@andyramage.com. Let me know if you're enjoying this podcast. Let me know some of the topics that you'd love to know more about in the world of business, the world of coaching, and I'll do my best to provide those for you. And just to remind you that if you do want to come and train with me, and I would love to train with you, go to thecoachbusiness.school. You can come and do your full accreditation with me. And while you're doing your accreditation, I'm going to train you in business. And if you're already an accredited coach, come and do the MBA, Marketing and Business for Accredited Coaches. I'll be your coach, your trainer, your guide in that, so you can build the successful business of your dreams and get out there and live this life of meaning and purpose and contribution in a way that actually funds you to do so. That's the mission that we're all on together. And if you enjoy this podcast, please share it in any coaching groups or of any other coaches that you know or people that might be interested in coming to coaching. I'd be eternally grateful for your support. And until next time, keep coaching. I shall see you soon. Let's do this.